First, a little pre-introduction. In creating a theme for Old Men's Stories, I looked back at my life and I picked out certain things that just kept coming back to me that fit in to my life. And I'm bringing those forward to make it a theme for Old Men's Stories. And one is Fred, and the other is Hat. Now, if you watch the videos, you'll see Hat will be in I Want to Be a Cowboy, and you'll see a story on Fred. Fred is right on the front of the website. Just click on it and look at the story. If I do well during this one, this will replace one I have. So, okay, I'm going to start. What? It's running.
Okay.
I can edit. I'll edit out the.
I was just concerned that one time we didn't have it running.
That's right. It was like I've had it not running. The speaker hasn't worked. I sit and look at myself.
But you look good.
Yes, I look good. And what we want to do with Old Men's Stories is to use video more, because most Toastmasters are starting to use video, integrated video. So I'd like to use it in Old Men's Stories when people tell stories, because most of these stories are a record of their life. And it'd be nice to help them set up a YouTube website and then tie it into an Old Men's Stories website, move, with the address to their YouTube. Okay, so I'll start in the story now. No one here has been introduced to Fred. This is Fred. Fred and I got together about 12, 14 years ago now. And first of all, I got to fill you in on a word I use. I use a word called mystic magic. Now, mystic magic is different from magic, because magic is sort of people pulling stuff out of hats. And mystic is religious, and it has religious overtones, huge amount of religious overtones. Somewhere in between the two. Not quite being either. Well, I started a museum and a art gallery down at my place in San Francisco. And I was running, we ran it, we had it for about 6-8 months. And one day this fella came in and he said, "Hi, I'm Mike Stone." I said, "Hi, how are you?" He says, "I'm having a tough time." He says, "I'm a contractor and I can't get paid from this fella that did I worked for." He says, "And I've got some things that I created, some works in art that I did up in my mind in this years." And I says, "Wow." I says, and I thought to myself, that can't be much. Home miner, probably a rough stone. So he says, I got a piece out in the pickup. I says, "Oh, okay, let's go look." Because I'm a rock fan anyway, rock puppy anyway. That's another story. And so I went out and I lift back this thing, and it had in there 2 dolphins in marble that he had pulled off of his place, and he had polished them and made the marble dolphins. They were spectacular. They were magic. Man, these were beautiful. He says, "Yeah, I got the stone from up right around my place," and he says, "I took them back to my place." He says, "And here's another one." And he pulls a drape over it. A white buffalo. Everyone knows the significance of a white buffalo around here, I hope. It's magic for all Indians, a white buffalo. I says, wow. And he's just the nicest person. I said, wow. Let me take it in. And I was really excited. We got it in there, and I set it up, and I put it in there, and I displayed it right in the middle of our building, and he had several other things. I just draped my place with his beautiful things in it. Then we left him there for sale. And about 2 weeks later, he came and he said, Roland, he says, I want to thank you for just doing this. He says, you didn't charge me anything. I says, with that beauty, that was a gift to me to be able to look at it for that long. Excuse me, his name was Frank Newman. Okay, I got the name wrong. Let's think of someone else. Frank Newman. And he says, I'll tell you what, he says, I'm inviting you and your wife to come up and go gold hunting in my gold mine. I says, where is it? He's in Paradise. I said, oh, okay. I'll come up and see it at Paradise. So the next week, we went up to Paradise. And see, I know where Paradise is, because Paradise is in the foothills of the Sierras, Paradise, California. And so we went up there. Frank met us. And then we went to his gold mine. And it was just a wonderful spot. And he says, Roland, I got a gift for you before we go up there. You asked for a magic staff if I could do anything for you. Here it is. And he handed me red. I says, oh, I love it. I looked at it, you know, I love dragons and I love wizards. And I says, this is a dragon. He says, no, Roland, that's a snake. I said, how do you know? He says, because it told me it was a snake. He says, I saw this. He says, come on up here. He says, and I went up on top of his caterpillar, which he was digging out. He says, see up that hill? See underneath? He says, this was a manzanita bush that just stood there, just like this, growing. He said, and I saw it, he says, and I knew that was your magic staff, and I crawled over the top of the caterpillar, jumped down the hill, and got all scratched up going underneath everything to pull this out for you. He says, and it came out looking exactly like this. He says, I put the 2 eyes in, 2 emerald eyes, and I cut them off. That's it. And I polished it. He says, there you have a magic staff. I said, wow, a magic staff created by a person that does a white buffalo in Paradise. Magic. I says, but why a snake? Why a snake? I couldn't figure it out. But we went down for dinner that night. And we went to a Chinese restaurant. And I sat down, and they had these platters sitting there with the year you were born. Guess what year I was born? Yes, the year of the snake. It was like, oh, you're kidding me. That's magic. That's mystic magic. I said, man, I'm just thrilled. So I went back home, and I said, well, that must be all the story. I said, this lady came in the next day, and we started talking. She needed a job. I didn't have the position for there because I didn't have the money. But I just loved to listen to her talk. She talked and talked. We sat in the office talking. She says, I have this thing by Joseph Campbell, and it was an interview on the Lucas Ranch. George Lucas, the one that did Star Wars. And it's 5 tapes on mysticism. You'll love it. And I said, oh, wow. I said, man, this is... So I went home that evening, and because this whole area entertains me so much, is I did a marathon. I watched all of them. On the 5th one, he talked about serpents. And he said, serpents got a raw deal. He says, in all the other religions, except the Judeo-Christian, okay, which includes, you know, the Quran and all that, gave snakes a bad deal. He says, all the other religions worship them because they keep renewing themselves. They lose their skin and they create a new being over and over and over again. So, snakes in the mystic area almost totally have got this wonderful aura about them. So I got my snake staff. And I was talking at Toastmasters around Christmas, and I told about Fred. And a guy by the name of Jim Schultz, who is a biblical guru, says to me, did you know magic staff? Did you know Moses had 2 of them? Had 2 serpent staffs? He said one when he was in front of the Pharaoh and he had a staff and he turned it into a serpent and it ate the staff of this other wizard. He says, and the other staff he had was the one that he led his people into the promised land. He says, serpent magic staffs have been around forever and all symbolize good, except in the Bible in the one area. And he says, there are different interpretations of even that to show that they were really good. Well, after that, Fred and I became friends. So Fred and I would talk. I mean, we you know, you can tell Fred has a personality. I mean, just looking at him, he has a personality. Look at this. Isn't this cool? And so I always had Fred right in the back of the office and talked to him on occasion. And then I started doing the speeches. And then I thought about old man stories. I thought about stories that adds value to people's lives. And I said, who better to walk around with me in life and give the stories of people's lives? And everyone has some mystic magic thing that happened in their lives. And have Fred help them. And the other magic thing is hat. It's hat because I named it a couple times, and Terry says it's just a hat. That's my wife, Terry. So I said, okay, hat and Fred are going to be my buddies. And the third thing was my belt buckle. And my belt, see my belt? Well, I never wore a belt. If you look at all the videos, for 35 videos, you won't see a belt. Because my granddaughter Mandy had promised me a belt. She was going to make one for me. And I had magically gotten a rattlesnake skin in Arizona last year. And I sent the rattlesnake skin with the rattle to Mandy and said, make that belt, granddaughter. And when I stopped in Paducah this year, I got my magic belt. The 18 got my name on the back. So, you got a magic presence here. And it's all around Fred, hat, and belt. Thank you.